For over 2 decades, the theatrical cuts of the wizarding world have dictated global pop culture, shaping the collective memory of an entire generation. But beneath the flashing cinematic special effects and the grand orchestral scores lies a massive corporate web of narrative cover-ups, omitted plot histories, and systematic character executions. Welcome to the Potter Audit. This platform does not exist to celebrate Hollywood hype, nor does it operate on casual movie nostalgia. This is an independent forensic review of the original literary text canon. As our systematic countdown to the winter production parameters narrows, our single objective is absolute factual reconstruction. We are dissecting the vital rules, dark philosophies, and gritty realities that Warner Brothers was too afraid to film. The forensic files are officially open. The audit begins now. Unsealing this archive demands an immediate dismantling of the whimsical narrative surrounding dragon sanctuaries in the British and European wilderness. The mainstream historical ledger routinely presents places like the Romanian dragon sanctuary as pastoral, conservationist retreats for mythical beasts. This bureaucratic framing remains a deliberate distortion of the text. A forensic audit of the logistical baseline reveals that these coordinates function exclusively as high-risk ecological blockades and heavily militarized containment zones. The original text canon establishes that dragons are highly volatile, apex biological hazards capable of decimating localized human ecosystems within hours. The sanctuaries do not operate on empathy. They are financed by international wizarding ministries to enforce a strict territorial quarantine. Teams of highly trained, specialized handlers deploy industrial-grade iron constraints and heavy stunner salvos to systematically neutralize these biological weapons, preventing a catastrophic containment breach that would instantly collapse the International Statute of Secrecy. Preventing a catastrophic containment breach simultaneously masks a highly profitable, state-regulated industrial slaughterhouse network, hidden directly beneath the conservation narrative. The book canon reveals that when an apex biological hazard can no longer be safely managed or maintained within the blockade, the asset is quietly moved into a localized extraction pipeline. This operational phase requires the total clinical dissection of the carcass to harvest highly regulated alchemical commodities. The physical toll of this harvesting process is immense. Handlers must systematically strip away acres of spell-resistant dragon hide, extract lengths of raw heartstring fabric, and drain hundreds of liters of highly volatile blood. The text outlines that these raw organic materials form the baseline foundation of the wizarding world's defensive and military industries. The state-sanctioned slaughterhouse operates with cold, assembly line efficiency, turning the violent termination of an apex predator into a highly structured corporate extraction matrix designed to fuel the domestic economy. Fueling the domestic economy through state-regulated distribution channels inevitably creates an intense, insatiable demand within the black market supply lines. Because the ministry enforces strict, heavily policed quotas on the legal acquisition of dragon parts, a sprawling underground illegal commodity network has emerged to service rogue alchemists and dark wizards. The text in the Philosopher's Stone and the Order of the Phoenix documents the operational reality of this illicit trade, tracking how poached materials move seamlessly from international wilderness zones directly into metropolitan black markets like Knockturn Alley. Individual actors, operating as independent smugglers, transport highly volatile cargo, such as illegally harvested dragon eggs or unrefined heartstrings, hidden behind complex concealment charms. This black market infrastructure functions on liquid capital and extreme secrecy. bypassing state tariffs and safety regulations to supply a global network of underground laboratories with the raw, highly concentrated biochemical hazards required to brew forbidden, high-threat dark magic. Supplying underground laboratories with forbidden dark magic directly intersects with the highly classified, institutionalized industry of wand core extraction. The literary canon establishes that dragon heartstring is one of the three supreme cores capable of producing high-yield magical amplification. However, the forensic reality behind this manufacturing process is entirely sanitized by the retail monopoly of Ollivanders. The original text indicates that heartstring extraction is not a benign gathering of materials. It requires harvesting the muscular, fibrous lining of the heart immediately following the animal's termination. This material must be clinically preserved in a specialized alchemical solution to prevent organic decomposition and preserve its inherent magical conductivity. The wand economy depends directly on this constant, grisly supply of harvested tissue, proving that every high-yield wand distributed to 11-year-old citizens at retail counters is an artifact constructed from the processed remnants of a slaughtered apex predator. Constructing consumer artifacts from the processed remnants of slaughtered predators leads directly to the most heavily policed secret in modern alchemical science: Albus Dumbledore's 12 uses of dragon blood. The mainstream ledger frames these discoveries as a brilliant academic achievement that elevated Dumbledore to international renown. This framing remains an intentional distortion of the text. A forensic audit of the biochemical properties of the fluid reveals that dragon blood is an incredibly toxic, highly corrosive substance saturated with raw magical energy. The text hints that Dumbledore's 12 breakthroughs, including its application as a highly concentrated oven cleaner and a powerful localized solvent, were actually a series of military-grade extraction and stabilization protocols. The ministry immediately classified these findings, establishing a rigid, state-monopolized regulatory framework over the substance to ensure that the secrets of utilizing this volatile, high-yield alchemical catalyst remained entirely under the control of the governing elite. Ensuring that this volatile, high-yield alchemical catalyst remained under state control required a deep understanding of the terrifying biochemical reality of the substance itself. The unsealed text canon establishes that unrefined dragon blood possess properties akin to an unstable alchemical acid. When exposed to oxygen, the fluid undergoes a rapid thermal reaction, releasing highly toxic sulfurous vapors that cause immediate severe neurological damage to any unprotected human respiratory system. The book details how handlers and alchemists must work within specialized, low-temperature, clean rooms built from non-reactive slate rock to prevent accidental ignition. This severe chemical volatility is why the commercial trade of the fluid is heavily restricted by international statute. The ministry's aggressive policing of the commodity was not an exercise in standard consumer safety. It was a desperate, ongoing effort to prevent rogue entities from weaponizing unrefined dragon blood into a devastating chemical warfare agent. Preventing the weaponization of alchemical assets allowed the state to prioritize the commercial weaponization of dragonhide for elite military and law enforcement applications. The text reveals that the physical structure of dragonhide possesses a dense, interlocking scale matrix that naturally repels, absorbs, and diffuses high-yield offensive spellcraft. This extraordinary physical resistance makes the material the most sought-after asset for the manufacturing of tactical aura protective gear. The book canon details how the ministry maintains an exclusive procurement contract with the major sanctuaries, systematically draining the market of premium hide to ensure state law enforcement retains an absolute tactical advantage over the civilian population. This regulatory capture created a profound institutional double standard. Ordinary citizens were left completely exposed to offensive magic, while the state's enforcement arms were insulated behind layers of processed apex predator hide, turning a natural biological defense into a symbol of unchecked government authority. This absolute tactical advantage over the market inevitably drove the lower tiers of the criminal underworld to exploit the illicit trade of dragon meat. The text in the Order of the Phoenix provides a grotesque forensic look at this secondary black market, tracking how Hagrid utilised a raw, bloody slab of dragon meat to soothe his severe physical injuries following his diplomatic mission to the Giants. The book canon reveals that dragon meat possesses unique, highly concentrated tissue regeneration properties that far exceed standard medical potions. However, because the sale of the flesh is strictly criminalised under the Beast Livestock Act, it can only be sourced through illicit poaching syndicates operating outside the law. This underground market treats the carcass as a liquid asset to be rapidly carved, salted, and distributed to desperate buyers, proving that every single element of this volatile biological hazard is extracted and traded within an unyielding capitalist engine. This unyielding capitalist engine and the dark forensic reality of the trade were entirely systematically extracted by the corporate production pipelines of Warner Brothers. In director Mike Newell and David Yates's cinematic translations, the brutal economic reality of the dragon economy was completely minimized to preserve a fast-paced, family-friendly fantasy narrative. Hollywood production records reveal that scriptwriters had to continuously strip away lengthy world-building subplots involving black market trafficking, wand core manufacturing logistics, and regulatory corruption to maintain a rapid theatrical pacing. By presenting dragons primarily as spectacular, roaring action set pieces, such as the Hungarian Horntail Chase or the Gringotts Escape, the movies completely obscured the deeper literary critique of an illicit commodity network. This choice shielded global theatre audiences from the uncomfortable political realism of the text, compressing a sophisticated commentary on institutional exploitation into a simplified blockbuster franchise that prioritized visual spectacle over structural depth. The lingering consequence of this corporate mitigation is a global audience completely blind to how the wizarding world uses regulatory capture to anchor its totalitarian control over volatile biological assets. The book canon demands we recognize that the true tragedy of the dragon economy was never restricted to the violent poaching of individual creatures, but lay in the complete integration of an apex predator's suffering into the core financial and military machinery of the state. The Dragon Ledger stands as an undeniable forensic proof of a society where ecological balance, biological safety, and institutional ethics can be completely dismantled by a ruling elite determined to preserve its private privilege and monopoly on power. As the production parameters for the 2026 television adaptation materialize, the creative staff faces a monumental opportunity to finally reject the softened Hollywood filters of the past, restoring the raw economic horror of this illicit alchemical trade. The forensic truth remains locked in the text, awaiting a reconstruction that refuses to look away from the corruption hiding directly behind the state seal. The forensic files for this specific case study are officially closed, but our systematic countdown to the winter launch continues to accelerate. The historical text canon holds thousands of hidden secrets, structural plot holes, and corporate alterations that must be brought into the light before the cameras roll. To secure your administrative clearance for our upcoming weekly intelligence briefings, tap the subscribe button on your screen right now. Ensure you explore our archive of daily shorts to trace the complete, unbroken timeline of movie alterations. Do not let Hollywood dictate the boundaries of your law. Stay vigilant. The audit never sleeps.